You want to talk about a move that could shake the foundation of the entire National Football League? You want to talk about a decision so bold, so risky, and so completely out of left field that it either builds a dynasty or gets everyone fired within 2 years? Because that is exactly where we are standing right now. The Cleveland Browns are reportedly heating up their search for a new head coach, and while everyone is looking at the big, established names, the front office has their eyes locked on a candidate who was quite literally a shock to the system. We aren't talking about a retread. We aren't talking about a safe pick. We are talking about a guy who could become the youngest head coach in the history of this sport. Before we unravel this absolute mystery box of a candidate, do me a massive favor. If you love this team and you want to stay ahead of every single breaking rumor, smash that like button right now, hit subscribe, and turn on those notifications. We are building the strongest community right here, and I don't want you to miss a second of this off-season chaos. Now, let's get into the weeds. If I told you the Browns were looking at an offensive genius to pair with our elite defense, you would probably nod your head and say, yeah, that makes sense. But what if I told you that candidate is only 30 years old? What if I told you he has never called plays at the NFL level before this recent stint? The name that is catching fire in league circles, the name that is suddenly surging up the betting boards, is Grant Udinski. I know the reaction. I can hear you screaming at the screen right now, asking, who on earth is Grant Udinski? And that is the right question. This isn't a guy you see on every Sunday broadcast. This isn't a household name yet. But the buzz surrounding him is getting louder by the minute. Jordan Schultz, one of the most plugged-in insiders in the game, reported that the Browns are specifically looking to identify a young offensive mind, someone who might be a year away from being a traditional candidate but is such a rising star that you have to grab him now before someone else does. It is the classic buy low strategy on a stock that is about to explode. But is he ready? That is the terrifying part. However, when you dig into his story, you stop seeing a kid and you start seeing a football-obsessed maniac. And I mean that in the best way possible. This isn't a guy who had connections or a famous last name to get him in the door. Grant Udinski literally ground his way into this league from the bottom. There is a story circulating that perfectly captures who this guy is. When he was trying to get his first break in coaching, he didn't have a job offer. He didn't have a promise. He just had a Honda CR-V and a dream. He drove across the country, living out of that car, sleeping in parking lots, and writing emails and letters to coaches just begging for 5 minutes of their time. He was sliding resumes under office doors. He was willing to do anything just to be around the game. That level of hunger? You cannot teach that. That is not something you learn in a classroom. That is pure, unadulterated passion for football. And it's not just grit, the guy is reportedly a savant. Listen to what Kevin O'Connell, the Vikings head coach, had to say about him. This quote actually gave me chills. O'Connell said, interviewing Grant was like interviewing a guy who could build a car from scratch for a job at a car wash. Think about the weight of that statement. He is saying that Udinski is operating on a mental level that is so far above the standard job description that it's almost scary. He isn't just drawing up plays, he understands the engineering of the entire offensive system. Liam Cohen, another respected offensive mind, called him all ball, no ego. He said Udinski is an elite communicator who obsesses over the details. And in Cleveland, where the pressure is suffocating and the media is relentless, you need someone who is all ball. We don't need a celebrity coach. We don't need a guy who wants to be the face of the franchise. We need a technician. We need a guy who sleeps in his office because he is trying to figure out how to beat the Ravens defense on a random Tuesday in November. But we have to address the elephant in the room. He is 30 years old. If hired, he would be the youngest head coach ever. Younger than Sean McVay when he took over the Rams. And we all remember how people laughed at that hire. They said McVay was a boy wonder who would get eaten alive. Instead, he won a Super Bowl and changed the NFL. Is Grant Udinski the next Sean McVay? Or is he just a kid who is about to be thrown into the deep end without a life vest? This brings me to the most important question of the day, and I want you to really think about this before you answer. Question of the day: Are you willing to gamble the next 5 years of this franchise on a 30-year-old genius with limited experience if it means potentially finding the next great offensive innovator? Or is that risk just too high for a team that needs to win right now? Type Y for yes or N for no in the comments section. I want to see where the fanbase stands on this. Let's talk about the fit on the field. Why are the Browns even considering this? It comes down to the quarterback. We have Shedeur Sanders under center. We have a young, dynamic quarterback who needs a system that fits the modern NFL. The days of ground and pound, 3 yards and a cloud of dust are over. You need explosive plays. You need to scheme guys open. Trevor Lawrence, who worked with Udinski in Jacksonville, raved about him. He said he has never met anyone who prepares like Grant. He said the attention to detail in the quarterback room was unlike anything he had seen. If Udinski can do for Shedeur Sanders what McVay did for Goff or Stafford, then the age doesn't matter. The resume doesn't matter. The only thing that matters is the scoreboard. And look at the setup he would have here. This isn't a total rebuild where he has to fix the defense too. We have Jim Schwartz. We have one of the best defensive coordinators in the league handling that side of the ball. That allows a young head coach like Udinski to focus 100% of his energy on fixing the offense. It is actually the perfect landing spot for a young offensive mind because he has a veteran stabilizer on the other sideline. But the betting markets are reacting, and that is usually a sign that something is leaking. Mike McDaniel is still the favorite, and that makes sense. He has the experience, he has the track record. But Grant Udinski has shot up to the number 2 spot. He passed guys like Mike McCarthy. He passed proven winners. That tells me that the interviews are going well. That tells me that when this guy gets in a room with ownership, he is blowing them away. It is easy to be skeptical from the outside, but clearly, the people making the decisions are seeing something special. We are also hearing names like Todd Monken and maybe even a look at Joe Brady. The Browns are casting a wide net. They aren't tunneling on one guy, but the fact that they are circling back to this young genius archetype suggests they know they need a spark. They know that the old way wasn't working. They know that in the AFC North, you have to score points to survive. Imagine the narrative if this works. The guy who lived in his Honda CR-V, the guy who begged for a shot, comes to Cleveland and turns the offense into a juggernaut. It is the kind of story Hollywood writes scripts about. But if it fails? If he looks lost on the sideline? The criticism will be brutal. They will say the Browns got cute. They will say they tried to outsmart the room and got burned. It is a massive swing. It is a high-risk, high-reward play. But maybe that is exactly what the Cleveland Browns need. Maybe we are tired of playing it safe. Maybe it is time to hand the keys to the guy who built the car from scratch. I am going to be tracking this situation every single hour. If a hiring announcement breaks, if another rumor drops, I will be right here to break it down for you. So make sure you are subscribed, make sure you are locked in. I want to hear your predictions in the comments. Who is your gut telling you gets this job? Is it the kid, or is it a veteran? Let me know. I appreciate every single one of you spending part of your day with me. This is going to be a wild offseason, and we are just getting started. Stay safe, stay loyal, and I will catch you in the next update.